Hello everyone, it's Sophia right here and welcome to the third record review I make for YouTube. Um, Today we are going to be reviewing this beauty right here, Friends of Hell by Witchfinder General. Um, this record might be one of the first records I listen from the new wave of British heavy metal era, from the new wave of British heavy metal movement. It was also one of the first ones that got me into it. Right. Although they have a very particular sound that leads a little bit more towards the the doom metal sound. Because if you have listened to this record, you can notice that they are deeply influenced by Black Sabbath. And What they do is pretty much a crossover between, I would say, like they have this not very, but slightly punkish vocals, and then they mix it with Black Sabbath, and that's actually quite interesting. How can I say? You might not agree with me, but I think this is the right way to describe Witchfinder General, to describe what type of sound they did back then. And I can say that my favorite song from this record is Music. I just love this song because it's such a different song from the other ones. You also have this one called I Lost You, and I can say that it's one of my least favorites because I don't really get it. I think it's a joke. I think the voice and everything, especially the voice, sounds terrible on this one song, but the rest is quite great. I can say that Witchfinder General is definitely my favorite new British heavy metal band, but they are quite good. Um, they are like one of those bands. Well, they got me to new wave British heavy metal because at first I thought they were great, and I still think that they're great. But the more I listen to bands and records from this movement, I started to realize that they weren't really what I was looking for. They have their very own particular sound, as I have mentioned before. But I think new wave British heavy metal, the new wave British heavy metal movement, goes more around the punkish sound. As you people know, I guess, or if you don't, you start knowing about this. The new wave British heavy metal movement is, at least for me, and from what I have seen, from the documentaries I have seen, and from what I have heard, it's pretty much a mixture between the punk scene and the heavy metal music, right? I have a theory why the new wave British heavy metal scene emerged. The new wave British heavy metal movement started to be popular around the late 70s, early 80s. Mostly, like, it had its success mostly in the early 80s, but it started in the late 70s. And in the late 70s, I think some punk bands were starting to like, in general, the punk movement was starting to go off, because it had its aura, its peak in 77. So some punk rockers started to think like, oh, I'm not gonna get anything out of this, so I think I'm gonna join some heavy metal band and see what happens. And the heavy metal scene, and when I speak about heavy metal, I'm not saying heavy metal like Iron Maiden, I'm saying heavy metal like Black Sabbath, Rare Heap, Iron Butterfly, and as such, and since the heavy metal scene was not, or the heavy metal in general was not um, having a great time either, they combine, and you know, they they melted into each other, if you know what I mean. They mixed pretty much, and they started having bands. You can see this happening with band Tank. Um, some of the members, I'm talking about early Tank, not Tank from nowadays, because actually nowadays there are two separate bands. But either way, you know what I mean. Um, with Tank, for example, it happened with Tank. Like some of the members played in The Damned, and others were playing like this heavy metal band, which I can't recall the name. And they stick together, and they made this like band that pretty much combines punk music with, well, for me, Tank will always be heavy metal, but it has this slight punk touch, and it comes from the musicians' influences, and it's great. It's pretty good to see this happening in genres, and that's how genres. Sorry, that's how genres are formed, and it's always great to see like the evolution of whichever genre, you know, and seeing the evolution of music in general. But yeah, I think this is the review for today, and that's it, I guess. So, good night.